Hello everyone, you're watching Sightline on MNB World. This week's topic is green finance and its benefit on environmentally friendly business practices. To talk about this topic, Ms. Oyungerel Munkhbat, Project and Partnership Manager at TOS Association, has joined us in the MNB World studio. So, Oyungerel, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So let's define the term green finance. And your TOS Association, or the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association, is set to promote environmentally friendly businesses through green finance. So what does it mean, and actually how does sustainable finance is implemented in Mongolia?
So I work in the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association. It is an NGO that started as an initiative at the Mongolian Bankers Association in 2013. It was spearheaded by the Trade and Development Bank of Mongolia when they organized a forum called the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Forum in partnership with the Dutch Development Bank. And within this, they were trying to raise funds, and they realized that for every investment, they had to conduct environmental, social, and governance risk assessments. And within this, all the banks agreed that they should conduct the environmental and social risk assessments because it actually benefits the businesses while benefiting the environment and the society. So in this sense, in 2015, all banks started implementing a risk assessment tool that assesses the risks of environmental and social impacts of the businesses of their investments. So starting 2017, the banks decided that it was not only a job of the banks to take responsibility for their investments, but it was the responsibility of all of the markets, so including non-banking financial markets and non-financial markets. So businesses have to also make their operations and their businesses more sustainable, and NBFIs had also needed to take responsibility for their investments. Sustainable finance basically consists of two components. One is this environmental and social risk assessment that I'm talking about. Second is green investments. So generally, whenever a person or an investor or a financial institution makes investments, they need to know whether it impacts the environment or society. What this actually means is that banks are now checking whether the mines are actually dumping the contaminated water into the soil, or whether they're treating their workers like actual workers and not feeding them below the minimum wage, or actually taking slavery, So in that sense, it's just making sure that businesses are running their operations that are adhering to the law. On the second hand, with green lending or green investments, it's basically saying that in addition to just adhering to the law, you actually have to make sure or to cause additionality to the environment. This means that you're actually going out of your way and doing additional things to benefit the environment. So first is just saying, I'm doing legal operations. Second is saying I'm actually doing good for the environment. And this means energy efficient houses like green buildings where it saves resources such as energy and water, or it actually benefits the environment by reducing soil contamination or air pollution. And green investment has a wide range of application. So we could talk about climate insurance, green lending, green bonds, and all the types of financial instruments that you can think of, and all the businesses that you can think of as well. So even cashmere or agriculture sector could also be turned into green, and it could impact climate change adaptation or climate change mitigation as well, which is what the country is aiming for.
So thank you. I've got this question. Could you tell us what approaches businesses should take to be recognized as environmentally friendly?
When we talk about responsible businesses that are environmentally friendly, it's actually different ideas that come into people's mind. So people usually mistake sustainable finance for corporate social responsibility. There's a world of differences to this statement. So corporate social responsibility is just taking a small amount of their profit to use it to create a positive impact to the society or the environment, right? But it's only a small part of their profits. Whereas sustainable finance is basically changing the whole operations of the business, and they look into this with a new mindset, as the one that I was saying with the Native American saying. It's a different mentality that you look into your business operations and say, okay, are we like reducing resource uses in all types of your daily operations, and basically just changing how you invest, how we spend our money, how we raise the funds, and how we do transactions even. So basically, down to the cell of things, the business is changing all of its operations to become sustainable. So what banks are doing within these two components of sustainable finance with ESG risk assessment and green lending is, firstly, they're assessing the risk of every investment that's above 50 million tugrix, or more than 12 months in tenor. These are the investments that pose actually the greatest risk to environment and society. And for green lending, they're now issuing green loans for environmentally friendly products, such as electric scooters, electric cars, or insulation products.
So let's look at the green projects that are being conducted at the moment. So one of them is that you've mentioned is the energy efficient housing projects that are being carried out by your association in cooperation with German Development Agency. So it's a project that allows people to get energy efficient houses. So can you describe how the project is going on and what its benefits, like social and ecological benefits?
The purpose of our project with the German Development Agency is to provide grant subsidies as a part of the down payment for the mortgages of households that want to obtain energy-efficient houses. We're working with 7 commercial banks to provide 8 to 12% mortgages with a tenor of up to 15 years. Energy-efficient houses mean that their houses are complying with the standards of the thermal protection standards of the Ministry of Construction and Urban Development. And usually houses in the Gir district are actually 3 to 5 times lower in terms of thermal protection, which means it loses a lot of heat, however much coal you're burning. So as you know, Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia in general has a huge air pollution issue. Obviously, we know that 80% of the air pollution of Ulaanbaatar comes from the Gir district. This includes girs and houses, and also low pressure heat boilers in the kindergartens and schools in the Gir district. So the main problems with this housing issue is that we have this unmet demand and supply situation where we can't supply the housing for people coming from the countryside into the urban areas. So girs are actually very energy inefficient, and houses are, as I said, 3 to 5 times lower in thermal protection standards. So we're offering that if we can't actually supply them with decent apartments, then we can supply them with decent houses where their comfort is met. So they won't have to meet any temperature fluxes within their own homes, and they don't have to burn coal, and their sewage issues are actually also solved. And actually, we through this project we met with Hashanda Sakhandri, which is a Facebook group called Let's Live Well in our Hasha on our own land. And it's a Facebook group with members of over 200,000 people. And they all want to live in their own land. They have the luxuries of an open space and a safe environment for their children to play within their own land. So a lot of people don't want to move into apartments, but just want to improve their living conditions within the Hasha. So we're offering that to them. An additional part of this is the energy audits that we're doing. So Before this project, it was really hard to choose construction companies that had a design which was energy efficient. So GIZ, the German Development Agency, worked to choose the housing designs and improve them and make them more energy efficient. And now we're adding a component to this where the banks and the financiers also make sure that the energy efficiency is maintained even after construction phase. So this is a very additional phase that hasn't been tested in detached houses in Mongolia in a way that's very new and unique, and a lot of capacity building activities have to be done.
So how do you see the future of the project? I mean, there are over 200,000 households in the Gir district burning coal and emitting CO2. And with that being said, around 40% of Ulaanbaatar residents are vulnerable to poverty, and most of them live in the Gir district. And so what percentage of those people, of those residents, would be able to get the advantage of that energy efficient mortgage?
We conducted a feasibility assessment for this project. We have a project running called the Mongolia Green Finance Corporation project. It aims to raise $50 million based on a public-private partnership from the Green Climate Fund. So within the feasibility assessments done within the project, we have found that at least 20,000 households, or basically 10% of the households in the Gir district, are able to afford these houses and mortgages to improve their living conditions. However, qualifying for a loan does not necessarily mean that they're
going to do that.
Yes, exactly. There are many financial instruments to get a house, and there are many possibilities next to energy efficient houses. So if we're offering energy efficient houses for 60 million, there's always an option to build it for 30 million without the provision of a construction company or a proper drawing company. In that sense, there has to be some sort of incentives from the regulators or the financial market. So we're working with banks to provide the best incentives, and we're trying to work with construction companies and energy auditors to make this energy efficient housing process much easier and much more affordable to Gir district residents. And I do realize it is a huge problem, especially now that the project is being implemented during COVID. We're facing a lot of challenges, for instance, down payment issues, collateral issues, and it's really hard because we're offering 30% down payment while the customer has to pay 10% down payment, and they get to get a loan for the 60% for 8 to 12% interest rate. But this still remains a challenge because I feel like people are running out of cash, especially during the time of a pandemic. Even to pay 10% is a challenge for them. And I'm just realizing that not even the financial product, which is the loan, has to be affordable, but also the products need to be improved, and there needs to be a lot of technical improvements, a lot of capacity building in the sense so that construction companies learn how to build it in a more affordable fashion. Because globally, there's a lot of affordable housing initiatives, even in sub-zero temperature environments like ours, where there are even 3D printing houses, which only cost around 10 grand. So that's basically half the price of what we're offering now. A lot of work has to be done in this arena so that we could provide affordable housing to this underserved community, because otherwise we won't be able to get out of our air pollution issue, not in a while.
So thank you, and I would like to congratulate you and your Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association on completing the Green Taxonomy project. So what principles were applied in developing the Green Taxonomy framework, and who will be the users of that Green Taxonomy?
So we just recently approved our national green taxonomy. In last December. The Financial Stability Council of Mongolia actually approved it, and it consists of the Minister of Finance, the Governor of the Central Bank of Mongolia, the head of the Financial Regulatory Commission, and the CEO of Deposit Insurance Corporation. So these four heads of the financial industry approved the green taxonomy, and we became the second nation in the world to approve the green taxonomy.
After China?
Yes, after China. And actually, the EU approved it after us, so that was great. The green taxonomy basically is a classification of green economic activities that could be defined as contributing to climate change mitigation and adaptation, reducing pollution, and conserving resources, and maybe contributing to livelihood improvement. The main principles that we used to develop this was, we had 6, but to summarize them, it's basically saying these activities have to align with the national policies and targets that we have defined, and also keeping in line with the international best practices and the taxonomy methods that were being used. Such as like IFC won't finance coal-related activities, for instance, and that would not be defined as green, although it is a national policy target. The uses of the green taxonomy are basically everyone. It is supposed to guide the policymakers whenever they make financing decisions or whenever they make laws and regulations to reflect that for the country to go towards this green path and sustainable path, they have to promote these activities. And for instance, actually the law on procurement goods and services of the state budget, I believe, they have promoted the green procurement for state goods, and that is one of the starts. In addition to that, obviously, all the financial institutions are able to use it. Now, banks are actually reporting to the Central Bank of Mongolia for their green investments. So, how much of their loan portfolio is in the sustainable agriculture field, in the low carbon transport field, or in the waste reduction field. Yeah.
Now, could you tell us about the future of your association and what projects are you planning in the future?
So the Sustainable Finance Association, as I previously mentioned, has the mandate to make the financial and non-financial markets more sustainable, and their actual mission is to become the regional sustainable finance knowledge hub. And so in that regard, based on our current projects, which are focused on climate change mitigation, with energy efficient projects in the Gear district, in both Gears and houses, as well as in sustainable agriculture, we are looking into the business side and the non-banking side. So recently, the International Finance Corporation just started a project to implement sustainable finance principles within the non-banking financial market, which includes NBFIs, insurance companies, leasing companies, the capital market, etc. And we're also trying to start a program where businesses that are listed on the stock exchange have to report their environmental and social and governance data, so disclosure requirements. In addition to that, we are trying to attract green concessional funding and create the infrastructure for this. So as I mentioned previously also, this energy audit infrastructure is completely new. We don't have the standards for energy verification in detached houses, for instance, and we have to build the capacity of the energy auditors to be completely and fully utilized by the banking and financial industry. And by attracting concessional funding, we can actually promote green economy by showing real financial support to these businesses who are creating additionality to the environment and society.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks a lot for introducing us the terms green finance, sustainably responsible businesses, and also the green projects that are being conducted at the moment and also in the future. So unfortunately, our time has come to an end, and I'm sure our audience has learned a lot from you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You watched Sightline on MNB World. This week we talked about the green finance and the sustainable business practices. Our guest was Ms. Oyungerel Munkhbat, Project and Partnership Manager at the Mongolian Sustainable Finance Association. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.